Hey folks, and welcome to Truck King. That back there is the 2024 Yamaha YXZ, and that right there is the 2024 GMC Sierra Denali Ultimate. In this video, we are going to put Super Cruise with trailering to the test. We're going to do a long distance test to see just how well this truck can drive itself with the trailer on the back. So make sure you stay tuned. Folks, and here we go. This whole video, I'm hoping, we'll be using Super Cruise the entire time. So I am merging onto the 400 southbound here north of Toronto, and I'm heading into the city. It is a gray, rainy day, and that's actually, I think, a good thing, just because we can see how the rain affects Super Cruise, if at all. Of course, it shouldn't, but you just never know. So I think the important thing with a test like this is that we do use the Super Cruise for a long period of time, and this should be about an hour and a half of straight driving, and I'm going to do my best to Super Cruise all of it. So here we are merging. Turn on our regular cruise control and Super Cruise. Now you know Super Cruise is engaged because I get the green light here on my steering wheel. And yeah, folks, there I am, hands-free. We are Super Cruising now. It is watching my eyes. It has a sensor right in front of the wheel that's keeping track of me and making sure that I am watching the road. But this is all I have to do now, is just sit here with my hands off the wheel and watch. And I'll mention right away, I'm in a construction zone right here. And for some construction zones, I know that Super Cruise will actually just shut off and tell you to take control. But so far, so good. Right now, it is fully driving in this construction zone. Very clearly painted lines. You can see them on the road. But yeah, it's doing everything right here, which is pretty nice. So I am going to set my gap. Oh, there's my red light. Super Cruise disengaging. Take control. Oh, and see, it actually said driving in an exit lane. Interesting. So it just kicked off, and it said driving in exit lane. So it thought I was exiting the highway. Now, I am in the far right lane, but I never made any move to suggest I wanted to exit the highway. So that was interesting. Now let's see if I can turn it back on. Oh, and now it says no road information. So now I would blame the construction. So this is already demonstrating a point I wanted to make, right off the top of this video. You have to be paying attention. These systems are not foolproof. They still can't do it in every construction zone. And when it asks you to take over, you better be aware of what's around you, who's coming up on you, where you want to be on the road. You want to be aware of all those things so that when you take over, you can do so safely. And that might go without saying, but I think it needs to be just reiterated. I am fully at fault for any accident that happens, even if Super Cruise did happen to do something silly. It's not the system's fault. At this point in the autonomous driving world, it is still fully on the driver, and I do take that seriously. So we're back in regular cruise control, and Super Cruise is back on. So I will say I love it that you hit that button and it comes on basically instantly. It's been quite quick. So I'm going to set it to the smallest gap now. I was changing the gap earlier. And I do want to mention the gaps. What I really like is knowing that Super Cruise, when I have the trailer on, actually makes the gap a little bit larger. So this is the closest gap, and I'm following a tractor trailer right now. It's got to be 3 or 4 car lengths, and I really do appreciate that with the trailer they make that gap bigger, because that's how a regular person should drive with the trailer. You should always be anticipating having to or needing more space to stop when you have the trailer on, stopping becomes, yeah, much tougher for your brakes. So you always want to leave that big gap in front of you. And that's what the system is doing here automatically for me. So I just appreciate that in that way. It's sort of thinking like I would if I was to be trailering. So far so good. I'm gonna set my cruise control at 108 kilometers an hour, just a bit faster than the big trucks, but not too quick because it is not a very nice day out here. Oh, Super Cruise disengaging once again. No road information. That's interesting. I have no idea on that one why it would not have road information. This is not under construction or anything. Okay, well, I guess I'll just drive for a moment. Now, I have used Super Cruise in this truck without the trailer on when I was bringing the truck home, and it basically cruised up the entire highway without disengaging at all, and it's already disengaged twice on me. Yeah, I still have the no road information message, so okay, we'll keep driving for a minute and see if it gets that road information. Oh, and finally I'm super cruising again. So that was, I don't know, 2 minutes there where it just kept giving me the no road information message. There is more construction coming up, but that wasn't a construction area, so yeah, that one I can't explain. But I am back on Super Cruise. And for now, yeah, I'm gonna stop talking. I'm not gonna stop rolling the cameras though, because if anything does happen, I want to be able to capture that moment. And I want you guys to know that all of this is occurring in real time. I haven't done any cuts yet, and I don't plan on adding any cuts into this, at least not for a while. So for now, I'm just going to speed up the footage until, you know, something interesting happens. But I will keep my hands over here. Oh, Super Cruise disengaging. Take vehicle control. No road information. Again, it disengaged. I don't know what, I don't want to chalk it up to the weather. I don't think the rain should have anything to do with it, but maybe it does. Either that or it has something to do with the construction once again. Once I get south of this construction zone here, there should be basically no more all the way down. So we'll see, but so far, yeah, that's multiple disengagements due to no road information, according to Super Cruise. And we're back. Super cruising once again. And once again, I'm just going to speed up the footage, and I will stop it if anything interesting happens. See if it disengages anymore. I'm gonna jump back in right now, folks. Super Cruise sensed those couple of disengagements early. The system has been flawless. We've even come through some more construction zones. I'm in one right now. Nothing, no disengagements. I've had it stuck on at 110 kilometers an hour, and it's doing a really nice job. Talking about sort of how human is it? How much does it drive like I would drive? The one thing I notice that I don't love is that when someone does cut in front of you into that gap, it really does slow down aggressively and gets a good 5-10 kilometers an hour underneath the speed that the car in front of you is going. And then as they move out of that zone, the truck accelerates quite hard to kind of get back up to that speed. I wouldn't necessarily drive like that. I would just lift off and coast and allow that car to sort of move out of that space, whereas it's a little quicker to say, hey, we got to reestablish that gap. So I think all adaptive cruise control systems are kind of guilty of that. That's the one thing I notice. And then if you're in dense traffic, which I am, the person who's right behind you gets really frustrated because you're slowing down, more than you probably need to be. So that's a bit of a negative, but it's not that bad. And then I think on the biggest positive side is just the steering. Now, with the trailer on, there's just a little bit more that goes into controlling the vehicle. I'll give a shout out to my dad. I was always taught smooth, slow inputs, especially with the trailer. You never want to do something jerky because then you might throw off the weight and that thing can start fishtailing or what have you behind you. So always smooth inputs. And that's what it feels like the truck is doing, even coming over some sort of weird broken pavement in the middle of a corner. It never feels like it's doing any quick adjustments. It just feels like everything is nice and smooth and controlled. So steering wise, I don't feel like it is much different than what I would be doing, and that's definitely a big compliment to Super Cruise. The only other kind of funny thing I noticed is even earlier when I took a drink of water from the bottle, my eyes were blocked for long enough, the green line starts to flash, and when it's flashing, it's saying, hey, you're not paying attention. So even just having them blocked for 2 to 3 seconds while I had a drink was enough for it to start flashing at me, but it wasn't enough for it to disengage. So that's my thoughts. We're going to keep on going. I'm only about halfway there. At this point in the video, though, I do want to cut in with an interview. I recently had the chance to do Super Cruise with trailering with a General Motors Canada engineer. And here in Canada, over in Oshawa, they have a testing facility where a lot of this Super Cruise technology was developed. So I got to speak to Ralph, one of the main engineers in charge of development of this system, and I had a lot of questions on how it works. So let's cut to the interview now. I'll keep cruising here on the highway, and when the interview's over, we'll come back and check in and see how we're doing. Alrighty folks, well here we are on the 401, just outside of Oshawa, and I am hands-free in a Chevy Silverado with a trailer on the back. First of all, Ralph, if you don't mind, introduce yourself and just let us know what your position is at GM.
Yeah, so I'm Ralph Schlotke. I'm the Senior Product Manager for trailering at General Motors. And I've been lucky enough to be working in this trailering space for a number of years, developing these great features to help our customers.
Excellent. So, Ralph, I think the question a lot of people have right off the bat is, how many roads can you use this on? And obviously we're focusing a lot on Canada today, but if you do know about the States as well, a lot of our viewers would be curious to hear. So where can you go and Super Cruise with the trailer with no hands?
Yeah, so most of the major highways in the US have been mapped. We have over 650,000 kilometers of roads already mapped in Canada, divided highways, and we're now adding, it'll be over 1 million kilometers when we add all the non-divided highways to it that are coming to the databases anytime now.
Wow, yeah, that's pretty huge. And so what goes into that mapping process? Is it you guys coming out here and driving literally with the vehicle that's looking around and mapping everything, or where's all the data kind of come from and come together?
So we're purchasing that road data, the high def road data, and we're integrating it into our vehicles. So each of the vehicles has that data integrated in, and we use the GPS signal to know where you are situated on the road at all times.
Gotcha. And then in terms of the truck, what sensors are here on the truck that are helping it to look around and see around it?
So you have forward and rear facing radar, you have ultrasonics as well as camera systems, all integrating into keeping you safely in the lane and your trailer as well.
Gotcha. So I see too, you have 3 different gaps for how closely you're following the vehicle in front. Does that change with the trailer? Like, does the initial gap get any bigger, or?
Absolutely.
It
so
does.
Yeah, so our gross combined weight, which is a feature that we have in the vehicle already, even if you're not super cruising, which takes into account the weight of the truck and the trailer by using your transmission and braking information.
Right.
That now gets combined with your gap setting to adjust it to make sure that you have a safe stopping distance.
Amazing. Yeah, and you know what? When even just adaptive cruise control first came out, that was one of my first questions is if you use this with the trailer, it should compensate. It should move back, and a lot of them didn't. It was just, here's the set space, and that's what it is. So
Right.
I'm really happy to hear that you guys thought of that as well, because, you know, I think maybe this is obvious, but it needs to be stated. Towing is just not the same as driving. There's so many more considerations. You're always paying attention to something. It's just a little bit more involved. So, you know, having a system that also is a little bit more intelligent for everything you need to do and want to do is certainly helpful. So we're off the highway. We can talk a little bit about transparent trailer now. And one of the things I noticed right away is when I just simply turn the wheel to the right, I'm not signaling on this one, even though I should be, the camera automatically moves over to that passenger side view. That's amazing, because again, previously it was always tied to the signal, whereas now it can actually see the angle on the trailer, and that's just, it's so helpful, again, to have the view be exactly where you need it when you need it, right? So we're doing a tight corner right now. This is a good chance to mention you still have jackknife alert, is that correct?
Absolutely. So the jackknife alert normally doesn't come on in a forward driving application, only because
Sure.
you don't get to that tight angle.
Yeah.
But in reverse, not only do you have rear trailer guidelines, which you'll experience later today, but you'll have the jackknife alert on the screen at the same time.
And that's simply using the camera system, is that correct? And just monitoring the angle on that trailer?
Absolutely. Yep.
Cool. So yeah, talk me through transparent trailer and just, you know, the basics of how it works, because I know there's a camera on the back of the trailer that makes it possible, but how are these things all like stitched together to look so good? Because it really is seamless watching what transfers from this camera to that camera and as it moves. It's quite amazing.
Yeah, so the calibration process starts with the trailer profile that you set up. So the trailer profile has the measurements of your trailer in it, and then the rear camera view from the vehicle is stitched together with the rear camera view of the trailer, and the calibration process is use those dimensions to get you that seamless view.
Yeah, and something we were just talking about, which I think is you know, extra beneficial here, is with a trailer like this where your view is blocked, or a travel trailer, or, you know, many other types of trailers, you would need legally to get the little clip-on mirrors to give you that wide angle. With this, you no longer need that because you can see behind your trailer, right?
Right.
Yeah, that's just extra benefit, and it just, you know, peace of mind when trailering I think is always important. You don't want to have the white knuckle drive where you're nervous. That's no fun. You're stressed out, and this is just another thing to take away that stress.
Yeah, a lot of our customers use their trailers for recreation purposes, so nobody needs extra stress on their vacation.
Exactly. Yeah, you're right. You're going out to have fun, not to be stressed out. So while we creep through traffic, maybe we can look at a couple of the other cameras on here.
Yep.
Because you do really see all around your truck. There's your bed view, so if you did have something in your bed tied down, you can check it out. So yeah, there's your inside the trailer view. That's pretty cool as well, just to make sure your load's still tied down. Or you know, I'm not a horse person, but I think that's one of the real benefits if you're towing livestock, horses, things like that, where you really do want to check in on them. That's a pretty cool feature too. If my parents put it in their fifth wheel, my mom would be checking on her dishes and making sure the cupboards aren't flying open. But yeah, more eyeballs around the truck. It's hard to complain about that. It makes total sense. So there's your forward-facing view, that top-down view. Again, the view of the hitch, so you can actually take a peek that everything's still hooked up. Unbelievable the amount of camera views that we have access to now. And once again, you know, these are big vehicles, so when driving them without a trailer on, it's nice to have the camera views, but especially with the trailer, it makes such a significant difference. And then back to transparent trailer.
I think this is probably the view that most of the trailering customers would keep up as they're driving along, because it gives them the most information around them, especially losing the view that you get from your rear view with a large trailer behind.
Exactly, and we know we have the rear camera mirror, but even if I shut that off, it doesn't matter. I can't see a thing back there because of the trailer. So yes, when that's, you know, rendered useless, this is such a good replacement.
And we had considered putting the rear camera view up into the mirror, but because the camera or that mirror is such a small piece of real estate, it gives you so much more information on the center screen.
Oh, I just had Super Cruise unavailable. Construction zone, poorly painted lines. I'm sure that's probably the reason here. Oh, and it's back, and I'm still in the orange zone. Oh, it just darted to the right there, and it actually did cross the line. My rear trailer tire did cross the lane line. That was interesting. Right as it re-engaged, it kind of quickly moved over to the right, and I just crossed the line just a hair. But now it's re-engaged and it seems to be driving okay. But that was the first time where it definitely ran the trailer slightly over the line. Now we got dead stop traffic coming up. When I see that, I do adjust the gap because I want the truck looking as far forward as possible if it has to come to a complete stop. Now we'll go back to the shortest gap. Okay, and we'll keep moving. Well, yeah, that was a bit of a weird instance. And didn't make me feel great, but here we are again, moving along, super cruising. Another disengagement. This time it said lane ending. That is true, but it still doesn't end for another kilometer, maybe more. Now I do want to get on the 427 here from the 401, so again I'm switching highways. So that must be what it means, is that this lane is going to switch. But then it's so weird because it allows me to turn it back on just a little bit further down the road, and I haven't even changed lanes. So now we're coming up to a ramp, again from the 401 to the 427 south. So let's see if it can do this ramp. Probably not, I'm guessing, but let's see. I also have a stopped tow truck up here on the right hand side. Oh, but they're a lane over, so no problem. And so far so good. It's driving for me on the ramp. Let's see if it takes this whole corner for me. Beautiful. So this curve is not that sharp, and obviously this ramp is mapped. So in this case, merging from the 400 west to the 427 south, I didn't have to touch anything. It did the entire merge for me. The only weird thing was back there where it disengaged and said the lane was ending, because this is still the same lane. It didn't actually end, so it thought I was one lane to the right when I wasn't. Well, getting off the highway now, folks. And we actually did exactly 100 kilometers was the total on this drive. Over an hour and 23 minutes. We managed 16.6 liters per 100 out of this big 6.2 liter V8, if you were wondering. But that wasn't the point of this drive. This was all about Super Cruise with trailering. And I guess if I had to give it a rating, I have it at about maybe a 7.5 out of 10. The reason I say that is because when it was working, for the most part, it worked really well, but it's not flawless. I had a bunch of those disengagements, some of them which didn't really make sense. And then I had that one moment where, yeah, I don't know if it didn't see the lines or it thought the lane was somewhere different, but it kind of jerked me over the lane a little bit. Yeah, it wasn't much, but if there happened to be a truck there, or a big transport truck especially, that was, you know, a little close to me, sure, it could have been a problem. So with just those couple of things, it's enough to knock some marks off of this system, at least in my head, because once again, I always like to drive home that point. I am at fault if we get into an accident. I'm in charge of this vehicle. I'm the driver. So because Super Cruise did some things I didn't like, yeah, you definitely cannot give it a perfect score or anywhere even that close to it. There's still more work to be done and making this system seamless. But I will say, for the most part, and you saw it, I haven't cut these cameras even once, so you saw the entire drive, even though I know a lot of it was sped up. the vast majority of it was done flawlessly. So interesting test today. I said this before, I'll say it one last time. If I owned this, I do think I would use it because it does take some of the stress out of driving, but I'll also say that it does add a new element to driving, which is, monitoring the system, which it's not the exact same as driving. So it does take a second to wrap your head around it and not let yourself get too comfortable, because it ain't perfect. You know what, folks? Now let me hear from you. What do you think about my conversation with Ralph? What do you think about watching the system today? How do you think it performed? If you had to give it a mark, go ahead and let me know what your rating would be. And then I think answer the question as well. Would you use Super Cruise with the trailer? Let me know your thoughts on it down there in the comments below. And while you're down there, don't forget to hit like, hit subscribe, hit join to become a member, and then come right back here to Truck King to see what we're testing next.